Amara hadn't stepped outside in 3 days. The curtains in her room were permanently drawn shut, drowning her space in a constant half-light that matched the heaviness she carried inside. Welcome to Tales by Steph, a home of interesting African stories. A standing fan whirred noisily in the corner, stirring humid air around stacks of old textbooks and untouched lecture notes. Her phone vibrated again, another missed call, another unread group message from her class. She didn't care. Her fingers brushed across the side of her neck as she stared into the cracked mirror hanging opposite her bed. It was an old rectangular piece with flecks of rust on its edges and a large fracture running diagonally across it, like a permanent scar. Amara often wondered if it reflected her too well. Broken, flawed, imperfect. She sighed and pulled her oversized t-shirt lower, trying to cover her thighs. She hated how they looked. Too thick, too lumpy, too much. Her hips felt uneven, her arms too soft. Her stomach refused to be flat no matter how little she ate. Worst of all, her backside, flattened and wide, never looked like the curvy figures that filled Instagram feeds and music videos. It was her curse, her body, her shame. They had laughed at her in secondary school. "Amara Tomato!" One boy had jeered in SS2. "You get body like bag of rice." Girls would giggle behind her back, mimicking her walk. Even lecturers sometimes paused a second too long when she stood to answer a question, their eyes flickering in amusement or silent judgment. She had grown numb to the stares. What hurt most were the whispers. The way her name became a joke. It didn't stop in university. If anything, it got worse. The girls around her seemed effortlessly beautiful, shaped like hourglasses poured into tight jeans and crop tops. The guys flocked around them, throwing compliments, money, attention. Meanwhile, Amara had become the girl who wore jackets in the sun, always sitting at the back, never speaking unless called. Then she stopped going to class altogether. The knock on her door startled her. "Amara, open the door, Jor! I know you're inside." It was Ejoma, of course, the only one who hadn't given up. Amara hesitated, then slowly walked across the room. She opened the door halfway. Ejoma didn't wait for an invitation. She pushed inside, clutching a plastic bag in one hand and a bottle of malt in the other. She was dressed in high-waist jeans and a cropped Ankara top that hugged her curves like they had been sewn onto her. Her braids were neatly packed into a bun, face glowing as always. She looked like the kind of girl Amara wished she could be. "Have you been crying?" Ejoma asked, eyes narrowing. Amara turned away. "I'm fine." Liar. Silence filled the room. Ejoma dropped the bag on the bed and sat down, crossing her legs like she owned the place. She reached into the bag and pulled out jollof rice and fried plantain. The smell filled the room instantly. "You haven't eaten, have you?" she asked softly. Amara said nothing. "Amara, talk to me," Ejoma said, her tone changing. "You haven't come to lectures in a week. Everyone's asking about you. I told them you were sick, but—" "Ejoma, leave me alone, please." "No." "I said leave me." "No, Amara. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's going on." Amara's hands clenched into fists. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Then, without warning, the words spilled out. "They're laughing at me again." Ejoma froze. "My body," Amara continued. "They talk about how I walk, how I look. One guy said I look like a wardrobe on legs. Another called me plank bum bum. They laugh. Ejoma, they laugh like I'm not even human." The room went quiet. Ejoma stood and walked over to her, gently taking Amara's hands in hers. "You know what I see when I look at you?" she said softly. "A joke. Number, I see someone who is smart, kind, beautiful, yes, beautiful, but too afraid to see it." Amara pulled her hands away. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "It's true." "No, it's not. You don't understand. Your body is perfect. You get all the attention, the likes, the guys. You've never felt what I feel. You've never been the ugly one in the group." Ejoma looked hurt, but she didn't back down. "Then change it." Amara blinked. "What? If it's your body that's stopping you from living, change it." "You're not serious." "I'm dead serious. You want confidence? You want to shut them up? Then do what people with money and shame do. Fix it." "Surgery?" "Yes." Amara shook her head slowly, then burst out laughing, but it was hollow, shaky. "Surgery? In Nigeria? It's not as bad as it used to be. I know someone, a real professional. My cousin did her lipo with him last year. She looks amazing. He's discreet, expensive, but discreet." Amara stared at her. "I'm not rich, Ejoma." "We'll figure it out. Payment plans, or you talk to your uncle in Canada. You said he once offered to pay for your medical stuff, right?" Amara said nothing. "I'm not saying you need it," Ejoma added, her voice softening again. "But if it's really holding you back from life, why not take control?" The idea lodged in Amara's mind like a pebble in a shoe, small, irritating, impossible to ignore. For the rest of the day, they talked. Ejoma played some TikToks showing girls before and after surgery. They laughed at skits, shared gossip. For the first time in weeks, Amara smiled. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Ejoma's words echoed in her mind. "Take control." She rose and walked to the mirror again, pulled off her t-shirt, turned around. There it was, her body, the one she'd grown to hate. She touched her hips, her thighs, her flat buttocks. Could this change everything? Her reflection looked back at her, still cracked. But maybe, just maybe, it could be reshaped. Tomorrow, she would call Ejoma. Tomorrow, she would take control. The following morning, Amara stood in front of her mirror again, but this time something was different. She didn't cry. She didn't curse her reflection or hide behind oversized clothes. She simply looked, and for the first time, she imagined what it would be like to love what she saw. Her phone screen lit up. It was a message from Ejoma. "Clinic appointment booked for tomorrow. 10 a.m. Don't chicken out." Amara's heart skipped. No emojis, no extra words. Just the raw fact. The beginning of change was now officially scheduled. The next day arrived like thunder, loud, unavoidable, and echoing in her chest. Ejoma met her at the school gate in a black Toyota Corolla borrowed from her cousin. "You look like someone going to court," Ejoma joked, as Amara climbed in, wearing all black and sunglasses. "I feel like someone going to be sentenced," Amara muttered. They drove in silence through the morning traffic of Enugu, past noisy, cakey drivers, fruit sellers, and restless pedestrians. Life buzzed around them, unaware that something monumental was about to happen in the back streets of the city. The clinic wasn't a hospital. It didn't even look like one. Tucked behind a row of fancy boutiques and a small cafe was a cream-colored building with no signboard. The only giveaway was a silver plate by the entrance. Okonkwo Aesthetic Center, by referral only. Inside, everything smelled of eucalyptus and expensive polish. The air was cool, the chairs soft, and the receptionist's nails too long to be typing anything useful. "Dr. Okonkwo is expecting you," she said, ushering them into a room. Dr. Chuka Okonkwo looked like he belonged on TV. Early 40s, tall, clean-shaven, and impossibly smooth-skinned. He wore a lab coat over fitted chinos and an open-necked shirt, his confidence filling the space even before he spoke. "You must be Amara," he said, smiling as he stood. She nodded, nervously shaking his hand. "No need to be afraid. You're in good hands," he said, gesturing to the leather chair opposite him. They talked, at first about her insecurities, then about options. Dr. Okonkwo spoke with calm precision, showing her 3D diagrams of body shapes, before and after pictures, and explaining the risks in terms that didn't scare, only informed. "You want contouring," he said after examining her proportions. "Some lipo around the waist, fat transfer to the buttocks, a little sculpting on the thighs, natural look, feminine curve, clean finish." "Will it hurt?" Amara asked. "Only while healing. The beauty will last a lifetime if you take care of it." Ejoma squeezed her hand. Amara took a deep breath. "How much?" Dr. Okonkwo named a figure that made her stomach tighten. But she had already decided. She would call Uncle Remy in Canada, tell him it was for a confidence-related treatment, like the counselor once suggested. He wouldn't say no. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." A week later, Amara returned to the clinic. She had filled forms, paid the first installment, spoken to the nurses. The surgery was scheduled for Saturday morning. Ejoma cleared her schedule to stay the weekend with her after the operation. The night before, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd wake up and hate herself even more. What if something went wrong? What if she came out looking worse? What if people still laughed? But then she remembered how it felt every time a boy looked past her. Every time she entered a room and felt invisible. Every time her self-worth was trampled by other people's jokes. This time, she would have the last laugh. The clinic room was quiet, white, and smelled like lemon disinfectant. Amara wore a surgical gown, her body trembling slightly. Dr. Okonkwo came in, smiling under his mask. "You'll sleep and wake up new." She managed a nod as the anesthesia took hold. When she opened her eyes, everything felt strange. Her body was numb, but there was pain underneath it, like fire locked behind glass. She tried to move, but the nurses gently kept her still. Tubes, bandages, beeping machines. "You did great," a voice said. "Dr. Okonkwo." Amara drifted back into unconsciousness. When she woke again, Ejoma was sitting beside her, eating chin-chin and scrolling through her phone. "You're awake!" She smiled. Amara groaned. "What happened?" "You're fine. You looked like you were hit by a truck, though." Amara managed a weak laugh. It took 4 days before she could walk without help. Another 2 before she could look in the mirror. Standing in front of the full-length mirror, Amara slowly removed the compression garment. Her heart thundered as she peeled off the layers of gauze, revealing fresh, sensitive skin. Her waist was slimmer. Her hips had a gentle curve. Her thighs, more toned. And her butt, she gasped. It was perfect, round, lifted, firm but natural. Her figure now looked like the Instagram models she'd silently envied for years. She looked like someone else. But that someone else looked good. Ejoma hugged her from behind. "You're beautiful, Amara. Finally, the world will see it." Amara didn't respond, still staring. She didn't recognize the girl in the mirror, but for the first time, she didn't hate her either. Amara waited a month before returning to campus. When she did, the transformation sent shockwaves through the school. Boys who had never spoken to her now stumbled over themselves to greet her. Girls who once whispered now complimented her hair, her clothes, her walk. People assumed she'd traveled abroad. Someone even asked if she was a cousin to a Nollywood actress. She smiled politely, laughed softly, posed for pictures. Everywhere she walked, eyes followed, and it felt good. She opened an Instagram account. In 1 week, she gained 5,000 followers. Brands started DMing. Boutique stores offered her free clothes for tags. She started uploading photos, casual ones, smiling ones, posed ones. The girl who once hid in her room was now front and center. But something still lingered in the shadows of her heart. At night, when the makeup came off and the clothes lay folded on her chair, Amara would sit in front of the mirror. She would stare at the reflection, this perfect, enhanced version of herself, and feel something she couldn't name. Not regret, not pride, just distance, as if her soul hadn't caught up to her body yet. But each morning she put it aside. There were more selfies to take, more attention to enjoy, more proof that the world had finally accepted her, or at least accepted the body she'd built for it. A month had passed since Amara's return to campus, but it felt like she had stepped into another life, one that sparkled in filters and flashed in front of phone cameras. She was no longer that girl with the odd walk, no longer the butt of cruel jokes or the shadow in the lecture hall corner. No, now she was Amara the baddie at mara.curve, verified by reputation if not yet by Instagram. Her DMs were overflowing. Men in crisp agbadas, boys in tight tees, sugar daddies with suspicious usernames. Everyone suddenly wanted to know her name, her vibe, her secret. Girls she barely knew sent voice notes begging to collab or do twin content. Some begged for her surgeon's number. Everywhere she went, conversations paused. Eyes widened, phones tilted discreetly. Amara had become a moment. It wasn't just social media. In real life, too, everything changed. She received VIP invites to weekend parties she used to only hear about on campus gist groups. Her inbox was full of free beauty product offers. She was asked to host a fashion show. Her classmates, even her lecturers, treated her differently. "Amara, you're glowing," one lecturer said with a smile too wide. She smiled back, but said nothing. She had learned that silence had power when people assumed you were untouchable. At night, Ejoma would tease her. "Amara of Lagos," she'd laugh. "Look at you now, who would believe it?" They celebrated over pizza and smoothies, planned outfits for upcoming photo shoots, and whispered about followers who slid into her inbox with verified blue ticks. "Even influencers, they rush you," Ejoma teased one day, scrolling through Amara's comment section. But beneath the laughter, Amara felt it, something hollow forming. The mirror used to be her enemy. Now it was her stage. Each morning, Amara would sit in front of it, contouring her new cheekbones, smoothing down her waist-length weave, angling her hips for yet another perfect selfie. Each day brought a new version of herself to the world. But the original version? That one was fading. She could barely remember how she looked before. She had deleted every old photo, archived her posts, even blocked people who commented about the old Amara. No reminders, no past. Only now. But at night, when the world went silent, she would stare into that mirror and ask herself one quiet question. Who am I performing for? One Friday evening, as Amara exited a fashion pop-up event wearing a figure-hugging jumpsuit, a black Lexus screeched to a stop beside her. "Hey, fine girl!" a voice called out. She turned. A man leaned out the passenger side window, dark-skinned, heavy gold chain, teeth too white. "I've been seeing you online," he said, licking his lips. "Your body they speak volumes, baby girl. Let's talk." "No, thank you," Amara said, backing away, but he didn't stop. "Come on, I'll take care of you. Your type no suppose they trek." The door opened. He stepped out. That's when Amara ran. She didn't stop until she reached the student hostel gates. Her heart thundered in her ears. For the first time since the surgery, she felt something she hadn't in weeks. Fear. Not the fear of being unseen, but the fear of being seen too much. A few days later, one of her classmates posted a video online. Amara walking into class, hips swaying, phone in hand. It went viral. Comments exploded. "See shape! This is not natural a beg. Tell us your doctor now. Nayanj transplant be this. Body goals!" And then someone wrote it. "She used to look like a caterpillar. Money is good-o." The past she tried to erase was clawing its way back online. So she told her first public lie. In a live Q&A video with a beauty blogger, Amara laughed sweetly and said, "No, I haven't done any surgery. I've just been watching my diet and waist training religiously." The blogger squealed. The comments praised her. Everyone wanted the Amara workout routine. but when she ended the live session and turned off her ring light, she sat in silence for a long time. That lie sat on her chest like weight. She felt exposed, fake, small. Ejoma noticed it first. "You don't laugh like before," she said one afternoon as they ate grilled chicken at a lounge. Amara shrugged. "Maybe I've just grown. Or maybe you've lost something." Amara looked away. "What do you mean? You used to care about real things. Now all you care about is how you look on camera. You've changed." "That was the point," Amara snapped. Ejoma blinked, wounded. "I meant you've changed too much," she said softly. "You're slipping away." Amara stood up. "I'm just finally being who the world respects." "But is that who you respect?" The real breakdown started when a gossip page posted side-by-side photos, one of Amara pre-surgery from 3 years ago, and one from her recent photo shoot. "Transformation or deception?" the caption asked. The post trended. Her followers exploded with comments, some supportive, many cruel. She got hate DMs. A pastor's wife reposted her photo saying she was an example of moral decay. Someone made a TikTok skit mocking her before body. And then the worst of all. A boy from her faculty recorded her leaving class and shouted, "Yanchwe come from Turkey!" The video racked up 2 million views. Amara deactivated her Instagram. She locked herself in her room, and the shadows came back. Alone again, Amara sat in her old hoodie, phone off, eyes swollen. Everything felt like it was crumbling. The attention she craved had turned toxic. The body she built now felt like a costume, and the girl she used to be? She was gone. Ejoma knocked for 3 days. Amara didn't answer. On the 4th night, she finally opened the door. "Ejoma!" Her voice cracked. "I don't know who I am anymore." Ejoma hugged her tightly, no words needed. "You don't have to be anyone else," she whispered. "You're allowed to be soft. You're allowed to be you." Amara cried for hours in her arms, and by morning, something inside her shifted. It started with a choice, not one made out of fear, not shame, not desperation, but one made from truth. Amara woke up that morning with the windows open. For the first time in months, sunlight poured into her room, warm, healing, and unapologetic. Her face was bare. Her body, wrapped in a simple wrapper, faced the mirror she had once avoided like a curse. She stood there silently, staring at the reflection. She didn't tilt her hips, didn't arch her back. No filters, no poses, just her. This version of herself had curves, yes, a body sculpted by a doctor's hand, but underneath it all was something more: strength, pain, power, and finally, peace. She returned to campus a week later, not with the intention of proving anything, but to live again on her own terms. Gone were the bodycon dresses and sharp makeup. Amara wore high-waisted jeans and a plain white top. Her afro puff was pinned up with a single gold clip. Minimal effort, maximum confidence. As she walked into the faculty lecture hall, silence fell. Not the hush of awe, but the kind of quiet that preceded respect. She took her seat in the second row, her first time ever sitting that close. People whispered. One girl beside her leaned over. "You're back?" Amara smiled softly. "I never left. Just had to find myself." 2 days later, Amara opened her email and found a message from a woman named Dr. Funmi Oyediran. The subject line read, "Your story matters." Dr. Funmi was a psychologist and TEDx speaker who ran a digital platform focused on body image and healing for African women. She had seen one of Amara's old live videos before the deactivation. "I don't know if you're ready," the email read, "but if you are, we'd be honored to have you share your journey on our platform. We need stories like yours, raw, real, and powerful." Amara stared at the screen for a long time. She hadn't spoken openly about the surgery, not honestly. not publicly. Was she ready? Could she bear her truth? Would people listen or mock? But she already knew the answer. 1 week later, Amara sat on a small stage at a women's empowerment event hosted by Dr. Funmi. The audience was packed. Students, mothers, influencers, professionals. Cameras rolled, microphones buzzed. She was the final speaker of the day. When she walked on stage, some in the crowd gasped, recognizing her from social media. But when she started to speak, they fell silent. "I hated my body for most of my life," Amara began. "I grew up being mocked for things I couldn't control: my shape, my thighs, my flat bum, my skin. I believed the world had no space for women who didn't fit the ideal, so I changed myself." She paused, inhaling. "I went under the knife, not because I wanted to be beautiful, but because I thought I had to be, just to survive." The crowd was still, listening, holding breath. "And it worked. People saw me differently. I got attention, praise, fame. But what no one tells you is that when you edit the outside without healing the inside, your spirit will always feel out of sync." A soft murmur of agreement swept the room. Amara continued, voice steadier. "I'm not ashamed of my decision, but I now understand it wasn't surgery I needed. It was self-worth. You don't need a doctor to tell you who you are. You don't need filters to make you visible. You just need to believe you're enough, flaws and all." A slow clap began, then another. And soon the whole room rose in applause. She had said it, out loud, not for validation, but for freedom. After the event, Amara's story was shared across blogs, women's pages, and talk shows. But this time she controlled the narrative. She didn't post edited photos. She uploaded side-by-sides, before and after, with honest captions like, "This was me, then and now. Both worthy, both whole." She created a YouTube channel, Unfiltered with Amara. There she talked about body image, bullying, mental health, and beauty standards in Africa. Her first video hit 200,000 views in a week. Instead of brands that wanted perfect, she partnered with wellness companies that supported real. Instead of parties that chased clout, she now held workshops for young women dealing with body shame. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ejoma and Amara sat outside the hostel, sipping cold drinks under the mango tree. "I'm proud of you, Amara," Ejoma said. Amara smiled, leaning her head on her shoulder. "Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself." "You gave yourself a second chance, Amara. You did the work." "You know what's crazy?" Amara asked. "What?" "I thought the surgery would fix everything, but it was telling my story that truly healed me." Ejoma nodded. "There's power in truth." They sat in comfortable silence. No masks, no filters. Just two friends, under a fading sky, alive in their full selves. Months passed. Amara graduated top of her department, gave her valedictory speech in front of the same classmates who once mocked her, and later received a grant to launch an NGO called Rooted Beauty Beyond Skin. She traveled across schools, churches, even radio shows, spreading her message. You don't have to change to be enough. But if you do it for you, not for them. Her scars faded, but her strength, that stayed visible, for the world to see. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment.